All right, we'll start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. What's going on, you guys? I'm the host, Rodolfo, and my co-host,
Eric Ogaz.
Welcome back to another episode of the Mindtality podcast. And I just wanted to bring to your attention our mission statement for this podcast. And we're going to say this at the intro of every podcast, just so you guys understand what we're about and what our purpose is. So the purpose of this podcast is to bring change into your life, regardless of whatever situation you're in. We're going to do this by uploading weekly, and it's to start off your week. So typically a Monday or Tuesday, no later than Wednesday. And we want to bring a positive mindset to your life and a warrior mentality. Okay. So in today's topic, we are going to be talking about what is success part 2. We're going to be focusing on the team edition. But before we jump into that, I got a little icebreaker for us, and we're going to stick with the theme about teams. So what I have here is I have 3 different challenges, and Eric's going to have to guess. He doesn't have to guess the number, right? Like which date, but whether it's this or this. So for example, Eric, I have here a solo sport versus a team sport. And basically I'm going to tell you what the sport category is. And then you just have to tell me what you think, which one came first along the timeline. So first on our list here, Eric, we have boxing, which is a solo sport, obviously, versus soccer. Which do you believe came first?
I believe boxing came first because people were fighting each other since Adam. So I'm gonna go with boxing.
Okay. And then I'll tell you whether you're right or wrong after these 3. So the next one here, and then for you listeners, go ahead and participate. Comment down below for you viewers on YouTube. All right, for the next one, Eric, here is a solo sport versus a solo sport. We have gymnastics versus archery.
Ooh. I want to say archery.
Okay. All right. And then last but not least, a team sport versus a team sport. And it is football versus baseball.
This one is the baseball. Baseball was first before football.
Okay, so for the first one was boxing versus soccer. You said boxing?
Yes.
Okay. Soccer actually came out about 500 years before boxing.
What?
Yeah. 2500 BCE, and then boxing was 3000 BCE.
Okay, well, at least people were boxing before it became professional, or at least an organized.
Yeah, definitely. So you're not wrong about that. And who knows? Maybe it wasn't organized. Maybe it got organized very late. Your next guest here was gymnastics versus archery. Do you remember what you said?
I had said archery.
Okay. And gymnastics is actually it's supposed to be like one of the first recorded sports. I don't know if it's organized sports, but 500 BCE and archery at 20,000 BCE.
Wow.
Yeah, so gymnastics was actually one of the very first sports invented. And then last but not least, football versus baseball. You said baseball came first, and you're definitely right. Baseball came out in 1839, football in 1920. And then just a little FYI, I think the 2020 numbers are out for the revenue, the annual revenue. So we have 4 sports here, Eric. Just give me your best shot. You have soccer, you have baseball, you have basketball, you have football. Which of those 4 sports, the 4 main sports in the world, brings in the most income?
Oh, football, easily.
Okay.
Income because I want to say their tickets that they sell, as well as all the merchandise. If you wanted to say most fan base, I was gonna go with basketball. If you're gonna say the most, I guess, highest paid sport, I was gonna say baseball.
Okay. Yeah, so you're definitely right with football. Football does bring in $11.3 billion a year. And I think mainly because it's such a short window for that sport. So a lot of fans go crazy with the tickets. I think even like the Super Bowl brings in like one of the most revenues throughout the season, because like I think just like the nosebleeds are like minimum $15,000, something crazy like that. So you have football at 11.3 billion, baseball at 9.7 billion, basketball at 7.7 billion, and then Premier League soccer at 6 billion. And that's going to do you guys for the icebreaker. We just wanted to familiarize you guys with the sport, individual sports, team sports. Yeah, so kind of giving you the history about sports. And if you guys aren't sport fans, just hang in with. Okay, we're gonna start the podcast. I know a lot of you guys don't care about sports, but yeah. So, anyways, I'm gonna open up with the definition for success, and then I'm going to jump straight into it with my buddy Eric. So, here we go. So we said it last. Last podcast, the definition of success is this: it's the accomplishment of an aim or a purpose. It's the good or bad outcome of a undertaking. Okay, so an accomplishment of an aim or purpose, it's the good or bad outcome. Like, what do you mean by that? It's the good or bad outcome of an undertaking. We're going to talk about that today. All right, so Eric, my good friend Eric, we've played baseball for 4 years together in high school. We've been on the same team for about 2 years, right?
Yeah,
Is that right?
In 2017.
Yeah. For you, Eric, how do you fit in the team? What is your take on a team?
Ooh, this is a good one. So, I was always a utility player. I played second base, but I could have been moved everywhere. I can play outfield. I could play third base. I can be put where I was needed. And the reason for that is because growing up, when I played baseball, I didn't just want to be the best in my position. I wanted to be better than anyone on the field. And in order to do that, I needed to learn everyone else's position and practice it. And that's very similar in life. If you want a job, let's say you want a manager job, you don't just need to know how to work that manager job. You need to know everybody else's position so that you can work your position effectively and be the best manager that you can be. You need to know how the janitor cleans the bathroom. You need to know how the receptionist greets people. So that way you know that the job is running efficiently and that there's no hiccups or loose links in your chain. And that is how you're going to be able to be successful within your career field and stay successful. And that's a big point right there. Not only achieve it, but stay successful. Is you got to know other people's positions, because that makes you more valuable as a person. And this builds value in the team as well. Because not only are you getting better, but you and the team are getting better, because let's just say, for example, somebody in your workspace takes a day off, be either a leave, sick, whatever it might be. You now know what that person's job responsibilities are. And if you have to fill in, then you can fill in. You're not stuck without having somebody that day because all you learned was just that manager position. Sometimes you gotta take other positions that you didn't intend to, and it makes you more valuable as a person, and you learn a lot of life lessons because of it. So, Rodolfo, now that you've kind of heard my example of how I fit in as a team, how do you fit in as a team, and what was your role?
Yeah, so like I said, Eric and I did play on the same team for a couple years. A lot of the times we either played outfield together or infield together. But that's exactly my point. We alternated positions, so we learned very quickly our roles and how we could best help the team. And Eric, when you're talking to, and just giving your example and you're kind of explaining yourself here, like the one thing I just kept hearing is just like to be a good teammate, you need to know which gaps need to be filled. Like you have to know the need of the team, and you have to be willing to take up that need, to live up to that need. So for me, like kind of like you said, a utility player, it's someone who doesn't necessarily have a designated spot, that at any point you can get moved to a different position, and because you've had that willingness to learn, um, you're able to be that utility player. Um, and that's my first point of 2 points for this question here about my role is, I best fit as a utility player because I had a learner's mindset. And this meant I wasn't afraid to make mistakes. This meant that I wasn't afraid to seek advice, and it also meant that I got familiar with the unknown. You know, I easily put myself in positions that I was uncomfortable in, and this allowed me to be a learner. You can't learn if you already know something. That's the point right there. You can't learn if you don't know. If you already know it, what more is there to learn? You know what I'm saying? So point number one for this is, as a role for me as a utility player, I became a learner. My second point here is constant adapting. When I would go from one side of the field, whether it's the outfield, to come to the infield, it's a whole different style of play, but you're constantly adapting. Whether you're in baseball, you bat in the first spot, right, leadoff batter, or you bat as the fourth. Your approach is different. You're adapting. um and this was, I always was happy that I was a utility player because I never had all my eggs in one basket. Because if I was only good at one position, and if someone is better than me, then I'm out of position. But the fact that I was able to adapt and I was able to learn quickly, um, as a teammate, I was able to get shifted around. So if someone got hurt, like Eric said, if someone gets sick, who's the first person they're going to call on? Oh, they're going to call on the learner. They're going to call on the person who knows how to adapt quickly. And so I knew that the best chance for me to get playing time was to be very versatile. And there's nothing wrong with being versatile. There's nothing wrong with not being the ace or not being the big hitter or the big thrower, So yeah, so that's definitely how I fit into the sport, or my role as a teammate in sports. So back to you, Eric. So why is it important that we're talking about being on a team? Is in any way, shape, or form does this apply to life?
Yeah, so I like what you said about adapting. In life, things happen all the time. You unexpected events, ways that you didn't think that things were going to go. So it's essential to be able to adapt. Um, but the weird, anyways, what I want to talk about, or why we're talking about sports so much, is because it applies so similar to life. It, in every way possible, it is similar to life. And I'll give you an example. So let's just say you're on a team and you have a bad coach, right? Coach doesn't know how to manage his team. Coach is putting people in the wrong position, and you just have a bad coach. Or even teammates that aren't easy to work with. The guy that wants to hold on the ball too much, the guy that doesn't know what he's doing. You're going to have those people in life. You're going to have managers that are very bad at managing. You're going to have coworkers that aren't easy to work with, but you need to know how to be successful in that environment. You need to be able to work as a team towards the goal of winning the game. And the game is life. I'm going to say that again. The game is life. And, success can be figuring out how to manage that and how to work with that coach. If you need to set time and say, hey, boss, I think that we're having some miscommunication here, or whatever it might be, trying to figure out a reason or technique to work with your boss, then that's what you got to do. If you have some teammates that aren't willing to pass the ball, try and work around that. See what you can do. See if you can talk to them. See if you can try and figure out a way to give them more open opportunities so that if they are shooting it and are making the ball basket, then you just got to work with it. You got to try and figure out some ways to manage so that you can win at the game of life. And I can't tell you how important this point is to understand. People are unique and can be very hard to work with. And if you can't figure out how to deal with that, you are not going to be successful. I said it, Rodolfo. You cannot be successful if you cannot learn how to work under a bad boss or communicate with people to complete a task, then you will not be successful. Period. Period. Point blank, period. You need to learn how to work with people. And, I think that's such a essential or great point to talk about with sports and life. But Rodolfo, how does sports translate into your life, in your opinion?
Um, so for me, and you said it very great. I'm gonna try my best not to repeat kind of like what you said, but what we're trying to hit home, you guys, is the inconvenience of being on a team, but the opportunity that it gives you to be a teammate. Okay. Um, Everything doesn't always go to plan. You can have a plan A through Z. If B or C goes wrong, as a teammate, you need to be there at D, E, or F to be just ready to I already was thinking, ahead of the game. You're very selfish. You're not. I remember in baseball, if your teammate throws a ball over your head, and let's say it's clearly over your head, our coach wouldn't allow us to not attempt to go for it, to jump to try to catch the ball. Like even if it was nowhere close to us, he would still want us to not make our teammates look bad. And that's the kind of chemistry he was teaching us, and that's the kind of selflessness that you need to have when you're on a team. When one of your coworkers, of one of your friends or teammates makes a mistake, don't be selfish. You do everything in your power to pick up the slack. And that's my point here, is letting your pride die. Okay. As a teammate, it means that sometimes you need to know when to take the lead and sometimes you need to know when to follow. Okay. And letting your pride die is the absolute recipe. It's the essential ingredient to being a good teammate. It's what Eric's gonna talk about in a second here. Being selfless is the ingredient to success, even if your team doesn't succeed. At least you got something out of it. Okay, so in sports, sometimes this means you're not going to start the game. Sometimes it means that you start the game and you get taken out early. Sometimes in the workplace, Eric talked about one of your employees gets sick, one of your coworkers gets sick, and you have to learn how to fill in that gap. You have to learn, okay, who can I count on, or who can I pick up the slack? Where do I fit in this equation? Classmate projects for those who are in school. There's going to be classmate projects where you're going to work with someone who's very lazy, who's very who doesn't really care for the project, but you have to kind of learn how to maneuver around that. And that's what makes you, and that's why teachers and professors, they purposely put these class projects in place, because they understand the real life will bring inconveniences. Okay. And I have a golden ticket here for you guys, is not having it your way and you having to be the one that picks up the slack. That is an opportunity for you to grow. A lot of you guys are looking, including myself, are looking for an opportunity to grow. Well, how about you start with filling in, where the needs need to, either gaps need to be filled. Start filling in the needs. When I'm at work, I start looking around. Okay, what can I do to not sit down? I need to get going. I need to be productive. You know why? Because someone's always watching you. And that's me being a good teammate. And next thing I know, one of my coworkers, they're off their feet, off their butt, and they're moving around. What can they, And next thing you know, you have a smooth day at work, So being a team player is a player who doesn't ask questions, but finds solutions. And Eric so we talked about how being selfless is sometimes the most important thing you can get out of a loss. Is that true? Is there any takeaways from a loss as a team, or as a team as a whole?
Absolutely. We've been hitting this home quite a bit this podcast and last podcast, but guys, Losing doesn't mean you lost. Okay. Remember, losing can be success in itself. And what I mean by that is, according to the scoreboard, doesn't mean that you weren't successful. Let's just say you lost straight up 10-1, blown out. It sucks, but doesn't mean you weren't successful, because there's always going to be a team out there that's better. There's always going to be someone out there that's going to take your position or who's stronger, but it's the effort and the work is what makes it success. Eventually you can and will achieve what you're striving for, but it's going to take losses, and you're going to have to go up against people that are better than you. But at the end of the day, you're still winning because you're doing what is necessary to be successful, right? It's necessary for you to lose to become successful, because you would not know what success is if it wasn't for loss. I'm going to say that again. You wouldn't know what success is if it was not for loss. There's Wayne Gretzky, one of the greatest, arguably one of the greatest hockey players of all time. He once said, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." Rodolfo, can you break that down for us and interpret that?
Yeah, so this is one of those, as we would like to define in 2020, 2021, as a woke saying. Again, a lot of the times we don't do things, we count ourselves out or we talk ourselves out before we even get into it. Before we take that opportunity, like before we even take that chance. And this is exactly what he's saying is, you like, if you don't take the shot, you're gonna, like, it, nothing's accounted for. If you take the shot and you miss, sure, it was accounted for, but at least you took that opportunity, at least you took that shot. And so without making it too complex, if I could just simplify it, is I like to look at it as going up a stairway. You got to take the first step, or in order to shoot a basketball, you have to shoot it. That's it. That's the only way if you're gonna make that score. It's hard, you guys, because like I said, when I started college, a lot of my friends started college with me, and some people anticipate or debated to go to college, but they talked themselves out before they even figured out whether they could pass it or not. They didn't give themselves that chance. And that's what he's saying here is, maybe if you shoot, maybe you didn't think you had the chance, but you still made the shot. But don't live your life not taking shots. Michael Jordan missed more shots than he made, but because he made a lot of shots, they didn't take into account how many he missed. So try to register that. Like for me, it took me 3 years to finish a community college. It's only supposed to take 2 years to finish community college, but the fact that I finished community college, no one even asked how long did it took. They just assumed that it took 2 years and then I transferred. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my interpretation with it. It's very woke, and I know this is one of the best quotes are the ones that have multiple interpretations. So with that being said, Eric, can you give us kind of your feedback on this quote, and then close this out?
Absolutely. I think there's beauty in taking the shot. It's a part of life. You need to take your shot. You need to go out of your way and put yourself out there, because without risk, you're not going to be able to win anything. And success, you could take it easy your whole life, and sure, that's fine, but you may not achieve the success that you're trying to go for. You need to be able to take that shot, ask that manager, or be in that elevator. When you're in that elevator, you weren't expecting the manager to come in to give an elevator speech and go above and beyond to take your shot. Like, hey, my name is Eric. I'm doing this and this in my education. I want to be able to one day have a position just like you. Are there any opportunities? I mean, if you don't have that conversation, if you don't take that shot, or let's just say, for example, you have a Harvard University and you've always wanted to go there, and you don't necessarily have the GPA, but let's say you have a great story, and you don't apply. Harvard could have potentially accepted you, but we will never know. because you didn't take the shot. And you always hear those stories of people winning the lottery. Sure, the lottery's you never. It's the chances are very low, but it's not zero. It's not zero because you're still buying a ticket and you have that opportunity to win. So I think it's beauty. There's some beauty in putting yourself out there and risking it, because you can't get a goal or be where you want to be without trying, without taking the shot and doing what is necessary to be successful. So with that, Rodolfo, you break us out.
Yeah. So just really quick, I know we're kind of extending this, but I heard the story. Like, there's two guys. One guy was married. The other guy was keeping his eye on another girl. I don't know if they worked together or whatever, but he would tell his married friend, like, "Hey, man, she's really pretty. I would love to ask her out on a date, but it's one of those high risk, low reward scenarios, or high risk, high reward. Is that what it is? Basically, like, it's high risk because if she says no, then I'm heartbroken, but it's a high reward because if she says yes, then she's mine." And the guy kind of like hits him with his elbows, like, bruh, it's low risk, high reward. It's low risk because she's not yours now, and so if you ask her out and she says no, she's still not yours. But it's high reward because she's not yours, but then she says yes to dating you, then she's yours. So again, it's all about our mindset when we come about things. It's all about how we perceive it. Some of us are perceiving college, some of us are perceiving our job promotion as high risk, high reward. Well, guess what? It's not your position right now. So take that shot. And if you miss, it wasn't yours anyways. But if you take that shot and it goes through that hoop, or that goes into the goal, or the ball goes over the fence, however you want to interpret it, that's yours. That promotion's yours now because you took that shot, you took that risk. And I love how you broke that down, Eric. It's like, if you don't have the courage to talk to your boss about how you can go about that promotion, how you can go about moving up, that job's really not going to be yours. It's going to be the next person who gets the courage to talk to that manager. Let's say you had that opportunity on that elevator to talk to your boss, but you just said, maybe tomorrow I'll get enough courage. Let's say that boss walks out of the elevator and someone's waiting right there for him. "Hey, boss, I'm glad I caught you. I was wondering how I can get the promotion." And then you're going to sit there, be upset and hurt because you thought it was high risk, high reward, but really it was low risk. It was, if the boss says, actually, there's not, right now is not the time, we're doing budget cuts, then what? You know what I'm saying? But let's say he goes, "You know what? We were actually looking for someone to promote. You're definitely one of our key prospects. Thank you for reaching out to me and making it known." Not high risk, high reward, very low risk, high reward. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in to this week's podcast. I'm your host, Rodolfo Felix,
And Eric Ogaz.
and we'll see you guys in the next week's podcast. Peace.
Bye, guys.